I've been a big admirer of the Falun Gong movement for some time, and I'm very proud to be amongst you today. I understand the spiritual foundations of your movement and how that has brought you in direct opposition to the Chinese Communist Party. Now, I need to contradict something I think that Mr. Rohrbach has said. I have a lot of respect for him, but I think he misunderstands the nature of the Chinese Communist Party. A lot of Americans think that China is abandoning communism because they have moved into a business culture, capitalism, etc. Well, if you're a Marxist, and we have to remember that President Xi, in September at the Communist Party convention, said that we must never abandon Marxism. Marxism is the soul of the Chinese Communist Party. Now, what does he mean? See, if you're a Marxist, you believe there are You believe there are 5 stages of development. You believe there is primitive communism. That is the caveman stage, where you live together in communal societies. Then you have feudalism, where you have warlords running different areas, and they have peasants and serfs working for them. And then you have capitalism, where business starts to flourish and wealth is created. And then you move into socialism, where the government takes over all of the wealth and redistributes it. And then you go on to communism. Well, right now, China has acknowledged the Chinese Communist Party made a mistake. They acknowledged they made a mistake in trying to go directly from feudalism and the feudalism straight into socialism and bypassing capitalism. So that this was a mistake. So they are now going back into capitalism to build up the wealth and build up the military strength, so then they can go back into socialism and on to world domination. And we must never forget that the Chinese Communist Party, as all communist movements, aim for world domination. So this is something we must understand. China is still on the communist road. The Chinese Communist Party is still the #1 enemy of humanity, and anything you people can do to reduce the power of the Chinese Communist Party, to pull people out of the Chinese Communist Party, will benefit humanity in the long term. Because the Chinese Communist Party is the epitome of evil on the planet. It is a system that draws people in with the promise of wealth and riches and advancement, and corrupts people's souls. They betray their own people, their own countrymen, for personal advancement. It is the biggest corrupting force in the world. And we have to oppose it. We have to stop it in any way we can. Because it isn't. Right now, China is building 60 warships a year. America is building 9. China wants 400 nuclear submarines in the Pacific. What, to defend themselves against Mongolia or what? It is to challenge America. It is to challenge the West. Right now, they are buying up politicians in Australia and New Zealand. They are dominating Africa. They are buying up huge influence in South America, Latin America, and also in the United States and Canada. The Canadian security services, the Canadian spies, in 2009 released a report which said that the Chinese Communist Party had bought control of, not influence in, control of the legislatures of both British Columbia and Alberta, Canada's 2 richest provinces. They were now controlled by the Chinese Communist government. Well, that report got about 2 days of play and then it disappeared. And the Communist Chinese are still controlling Canada's richest provinces today. In California, they're buying up politicians, they're buying up resources, and they're influencing your politics. Now, the Chinese communists have basically taken control of the Chinese community in San Francisco through their communist organization, the Chinese Progressive Association. They put Ed Lee, who just recently died as the mayor of San Francisco, worked with a woman called Rose Pak, an agent of China, and they have dominated that region. They are still trying to get control of the Chinese population in New York through the Asian Americans for Equality, the Chinese Communist Front in New York. And their member, John Liu, stood for the mayoralty of New York. The plan was with the Communist Chinese to then stand for the presidency of the United States. And thanks to the Epoch Times and their wonderful journalism, that man was stopped. But they are still working to influence your politics. And I'll give you an example. We just had the Chinese government, the Communist Party, has targeted many Republican politicians, but a lot more Democrats. They are more involved with the Democrats since the days of Bill Clinton. Now, there was a recent elections in Virginia, very close to here, where the Republicans got beaten badly. Now, there is a Marxist pro-Chinese organization in that state called the New Virginia Majority. It's run by a man called John Liss. He's actually an American, but he's a Maoist communist, and they are working to sign up hundreds of thousands of Muslim voters, Latino voters, black low-income voters in that state to get them to vote for the Democratic Party. They've also signed up over 60,000 felons, people who have been in jail, who were not allowed to vote, but this organization got that changed so they could vote. And now they have basically taken control of that state. Now, that was completely organized by a pro-Chinese communist group. And how they did it, they use very sophisticated electoral information. They know exactly which people live in which cities, in which streets, in which towns, and which way they will vote. And so they go and target those people and register them to vote and take them to the polls. And that sophisticated information is generated by a man called Steve McClure, a communist, a member of the Freedom Road Socialist Organization, who is working out of Wuhan University in China. So a Chinese university is supplying the information that pro-Chinese communists in this country are using to turn elections in this country right now. So we have to understand there is a huge communist Chinese influence in this country, out of San Francisco, out of New York, out of many other places, out of Houston, that is actively working to install their people in positions of power and flip this country towards the Democratic Party, which they believe and they have infiltrated and they believe they can work with more effectively than the conservatives. So as Falun Gong practitioners, I commend completely the work you are doing in China to weaken the power of the Chinese Communist Party. That will benefit you all, but you need to understand the extensive influence that the Chinese Communist Party has on American politics, that they are controlling much of Californian politics, they control much of Oregon politics, much of Washington politics, a lot of New York politics, Asian Americans for Equality, which used to be called the Communist Workers' Party, a pro-Chinese group, works with Chuck Schumer, the senator. It works with Kirsten Gillibrand, the senator from New York, and many other New York politicians. So when you deal with American politicians, you have to understand and you have to be very discerning to pick the genuine anti-communists, the genuine people who will stand up against China, the Chinese Communist Party, not just the ones who will say, oh yes, we support human rights, but then do nothing. You have to find the real, genuine articles like Steve King and Dana Rohrabacher and others, and not listen to the Nancy Pelosi's of the world and the Chuck Schumers of the world, who are very much in bed with the communist movement. They will be nice to you. They will say lovely things and be friendly, but they will do nothing to help you, because their friends are doing business deals with China, their friends are communists, their friends are supportive of the goals of the Chinese Communist Party. And just a little bit of self-promotion. If you want to see how deep the communist penetration is of your government, just check out my movie sometime, Enemies Within. The Enemies Within. Just go to Amazon Prime, you can see it for free, but it will show you how deeply the communist movement has penetrated this country. So this is the big challenge of our time. We are faced with a Chinese Communist Party that has a huge amount of money and is using that money to buy up influence in Africa and Europe and South America and Canada and Australia and New Zealand. One of our New Zealand members of parliament, a Conservative, was recently exposed as he's a Chinese national. He was an instructor in the Chinese spy school. Now he's on our Foreign Affairs Committee in our parliament. Who do you think he's working for, people? And this was exposed, and he's still there. So recently a Chinese, a Greek Australian member of parliament was exposed as feeding information to the Chinese embassy there, to intelligence information, to warn the Chinese spies of any investigation by Australian authorities. So these things are going on all over the world, people, and they're going on right here in Washington, D.C. and in New York. So the influence of the Chinese Communist Party does not end at the Chinese borders. It is very, very extensive in your country, and we need to take that into account when we're planning our political activities and our operations in this country. Many of the congressmen you talk to are not your friends. They will pay lip service, but they are really working in the interests of the Chinese Communist Party, the Cuban Communist Party, or others. So I want to commend Falun Gong for the work it's done. I'm a great admirer of your work. You are really the only force in the world that is making an organized effort to stop the Chinese Communist Party's evil designs. Many of you have suffered. I was heartbroken by the stories of these ladies here and the young lady over there who have lost relatives and friends to this tyranny. And I commend you for standing up. I commend you for your virtues of forbearance, for your virtues of compassion, because these are what keep us sane in a bad world, people. If we have the compassion, if we have the honesty and the morality, we can get through this and we can win. But we have to be strong ourselves. And I admire you ladies for what you have gone through. You know, most Americans do not understand how you have suffered, the cruelty and indignities you have suffered from merely trying to be good people. And more Americans need to understand it, and the American government needs to be much stronger on the Chinese Communist Party. And as Steve King said, to ally with the people of China and not the government of China. Because the people of China are like everybody else. They want freedom and dignity and their human rights. The government of China wants tyranny for everybody. We cannot make friends with the government of China. We can only make friends with the good people of China. So I commend you for your work, and I'm very proud to be invited to speak to you today and very grateful to be among you. So thank you very much.